A very good evening to you all, and many thanks for joining us here on Rwanda Television. We hope you guys had yourselves a very restful and productive day. Now, at top of our edition tonight, these are headlines.
Rwanda's Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente highlighted the need for effective investment in order to clear out the economic uncertainties brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, especially in the sub-Saharan African countries.
Investors in the infrastructure sector say that for the Kigali city's aim of constructing 18,000 houses annually to be achieved, it requires a bigger number of professional constructors.
Once again, a great evening to you and welcome to Rwanda Television News. My name is Sam Kalisa.
And I'm Martina Avera.
How are you doing, Martina?
I'm very good. How are you tonight?
Very, very great. Still celebrating Kwibohora.
Yes, all day, every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, so we'll start it off.
As we begin our bulletin, Rwanda's Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente highlighted the need for effective investment in order to clear out the economic uncertainties brought about COVID-19, especially in the sub-Saharan countries. The Premier made the remarks during the opening of the 23rd Annual General Meeting of the African Trade and Investment Development Insurance that was held on Thursday in Kigali, Rwanda. Shina Teta has more.
The COVID-19 pandemic, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and climate change have tested Africa's resilience since 2020, while the continent's economic growth slowed down to 3.6% from 4.1% in 2021, with a large number of countries struggling with debt inflation, to mention but a few. Discussions held by delegates from different countries focused on ways to increase investments in Africa, thus bringing more financial solutions to the continent's problems. Emmanuel Moses, the Chief Executive Officer of the African Trade and Investment Development Insurance, says that Africa is still vulnerable to risk, therefore notes cooperation between member states essential.
They still struggle with access to markets. Yeah, so you've got your produce, you want to sell, and how do we, find markets for this agricultural produce across, beyond our borders? Because Rwanda could be having a surplus of a particular commodity, the other neighboring country does not have it. How do we facilitate that trade? Yeah. Also, how do we work with value chains? Because there are some big companies that need this produce, but they need it at quality. Yeah. There was a big debate in one of the countries in East Africa where the potatoes that were used by the food chain were coming from very far away, and the farmers here have got the potatoes. What's going on is because the value chain was not organized. So we are trying also to say how does the farmer produce what is needed by the buyer, okay? And the buyer will tell him, no, you have to guarantee price, and we will give you an insurance for that.
The Prime Minister of Rwanda, Dr. Edouard Ngirente, emphasized the need for effective investment to deal with issues caused by the economic shocks.
Together with initiatives by governments to create investment spaces that are conducive to businesses, the continent can indeed become the next frontier for global economic growth and an attractive place in which to trade and invest. There is a lot we can do at the country level to safeguard the economic gains and reduce some of risks that are real. First, we need to create and sustain conditions that are conducive to private sector development. Second, we need to remove structural impediments that stand in the way of business in our countries. Third, we also need to open our economies to market forces as much as possible, and we also need to lower administrative barriers to trade and investment.
The annual meeting gathered representatives from 21 member states, and the African Trade and Investment Development Insurance was established in 2001 by African states to cover trade and investment risks of companies doing business in Africa. It currently has cooperation works with Rwanda worth $100 million. Shina Teta, RTV News.
Thank you, Shinda Teta, for the report. As we move ahead to other matters related to construction, investors in the infrastructure sector say that for the city of Kigali's aim of constructing 18,000 houses annually to be achieved, it requires bigger number of professionals in the construction sector. This is as the government of Rwanda demonstrates that it aims to construct affordable and eco-friendly houses every year. Prince Manzi with more.
The ADHI TVET Academy offers skills in innovation and sustainable light frame steel construction. The academy currently having 110 students. Some of the students demonstrate that the skills they gain will help them to contribute to the South and country's development.
I completed my studies in 2019. I got an opportunity here afterwards. Starting, it was hard, but later I managed and later got a job and a certificate that would also allow me to work in other countries and be able to train others. I am grateful for this because it allowed me to support the payment of my university fees. I also got a certificate, and this certificate is international. It is an opportunity that can introduce you to other nations and be able to develop.
The academy is a subsidiary of the ADHI Rwanda Limited, a construction company behind the Bwiza Riverside homes. The management states that the skills provided by this academy are recognized internationally and competence-based trained. The general manager of the ADHI Rwanda Limited, Hassan Adan Hassan, states that this academy was introduced to increase the number of professional constructors.
What we have actually brought into the Rwanda, it's a new way of actually delivering houses. So we are bringing in a patented construction technology, this new construction technology, but we've also noticed that the trainees could also benefit, other skill sets like plumbing, electricity, how to do retaining wall, how to do the foundations. So we are giving them all the right tools for them to actually succeed.
The government of Rwanda aims at increasing the urbanization rate from 18% to 35% by 2024. This aligns with providing affordable housing with land management and emphasizing the use of eco-friendly equipment, as elaborated by Pidance Rubingisa, the mayor of Kigali City. In the housing sector, we need up to 18,000 good and affordable units to be built every year for everyone in the city to live comfortably. You saw the housing project we implemented at Mhazi, and we like to use it as an example for what we need done on a larger scale. 300 families living on 4 hectares of land, with 3 of those hectares being used for other investment opportunities because the families are occupying just 1 hectare. Such projects also help to provide employment opportunities using environmentally friendly materials for construction. Here we consider prioritizing eco-friendly projects. The statistics from the 2022 population and housing census demonstrates that there is an annual population growth rate of 2.3%, and the urban areas are populated by 27.9% of the population.
Thank you very much, Prince Manzi, for that report. In discussions with Germany partners, Rwanda re-echoed its optimism and a commitment to cut 38%, equivalent to 4.6 million tons of its emissions by 2030. This is thanks to the government's political will to implement a climate action plan. Samidi Uwase with more.
Rwanda and Germany on Thursday held discussions aimed at evaluating what is being done to deal with climate change effects, as well as initiating a new 3-year climate action program. This comes as Rwanda is 3 years away from its target of reducing 38% emissions by 2030 at a total cost of $11 billion. Beatrice Kiza, the Director General of Environment and Climate Change at the Ministry of Environment, expressed optimism in achieving this target.
Ikiduha icyizere ko dushobora kubigeraho bigaragarira mu gushyiraho za porogaramu noneho.
What gives us hope that we can achieve it is that we implement different programs that enables us to achieve the set goal, and also to identify where we can get the financial support to implement those programs with partnerships and inside the country working with other institutions. There is hope we will achieve this if we continue working together. Rwanda's global air pollution rate stands at 0.3%, whereas the African continent pollutes the global climate by 4%. Through the carbon market project, the industrial countries with a high pollution rates aim to invest in environmental conservation projects in countries with a minimum number of industries like Rwanda. Tobias Kosen, Cluster Coordinator for Climate, Energy and Sustainable Urban Development at GIZ Rwanda, states that through discussions, they are looking forward to countries like Germany investing into various carbon-free projects.
The carbon market is very interesting. This is a financing model that if you look at, let's say, the basics here in Rwanda, you have very low emissions per capita. You have a huge potential when it comes to the forestry sector, when it comes to the peatlands. And this potential you can economically use for the country's benefit. No? So, for example, a country with high emissions like Germany would be able to buy certificates from Rwanda because their emissions are relatively lower. And this represents an income, a revenue stream for Rwanda. And now the question is how to develop these processes and these revenue streams. And this is exactly where we want to work together with our partners from the ministry, but also, of course, REMA, who is in the lead for the correspondent processes with the UNFCCC.
In COP28, which is due to take place in the UAE between November and December this year, an evaluation of the progress of the carbon reduction will be made as only 7 years remain until the 2030, the World Climate Action Target. Samili Uwase, RTV News.
Thank you, Samili Uwase, for the report. Moving ahead to education matters, the Ministry of Education has announced that it is putting efforts in developing the fundamental literacy and numeracy programs, particularly from lower primary classes, hence strengthening the fundamental learning in Rwanda. Adam Squizera with more.
Some of the children who are concerned with this program of literacy and numeracy are those who are in lower classes of primary schools.
In order for a student to be able to read, write and count properly, it is necessary to follow the teacher while he is teaching and revise the lessons given by the teacher.
During the National Foundation Learning Symposium on Literacy and Numeracy, some school principals expressed the need for the cooperation of teachers, parents and the government.
The only problem we had was that there were no materials such as books, but now the government is providing the materials. Now children can study well. All of us are required to participate and show commitment towards studying. The role of the government is important so that the resources should be available, as well as the role of the parents in cooperation with the government, which is also important, plus the role of the schools so that the teachers can do the right thing.
The State Minister in the Ministry of Education in charge of primary and secondary schools, Gaspard Twagirayezu, noted that the evaluation they are doing shows that such discussions that connects different education institutions helps to improve the quality of education. If you look at the evaluation we are doing, you will see that we are progressing in this sector of literacy and numeracy, which means that these discussions are becoming more productive. Another thing I would like to mention is that we are inviting experts across the world, where they will give trainings on where the world's research has reached, so that we can make decisions or measures based on science. The National Foundation Learning Symposium on Literacy and Numeracy has 5 objectives, which are to provide teachers with knowledge and help them to teach effectively in the lower classes of primary schools. Adams Kwizera, RTV News.
Thank you, Kwizera, for that report. Now, residents who carry out farming in the irrigation areas of Rwabichuma, Nyagisozi and Chabakamyi sectors in Nyanza district say their land has been greatly yielding thanks to the irrigation system that made it possible for them to continue farming even during dry seasons.
Residents have been benefiting from the irrigation system established in this area. They say farming during the dry season earns them more profits as the yield is highly demanded on the market. I've so far harvested 350 kilograms on this small terrace, which earned me about 150,000 Rwandan francs. I'm going to clear the weeds and add more fertilizers, and I think it's going to even increase the harvest. Nyanza District Mayor urged other residents to learn from their neighbors and start irrigating their crops and use selected crops so as to increase their earnings.
Those who planted red pepper and vegetables have gotten a good harvest, and we urge others to partner with their neighbors and plant selected crops so that they can get more yields, because that's what this area is meant for. This irrigation system covers a land area of 300 hectares. The system covers the sectors of Rwabichuma, Nyagisozi, and Cyabakami, totally covering a land area of 27 kilometers squared. Residents of the villages of Shimngapol, Kayanje and Rwabiharamba, who were relocated from the site of the Gabiro Agribusiness Hub project in Nyagatare district, are happy that their lives have changed for the better.
6 months ago, 72 families settled in Shimngapol village in Karanga sector, where they were relocated from different areas where the Gabiro Agribusiness Hub project is being carried out. The members of these families say that their lives have changed after settling in this village. We really thank our President, Paul Kagame, who provided us these houses, since before we've been living in high-risk zones, as we appreciate him for that we now live in these nice villages, where we easily access water and electricity. The Vice Mayor in charge of economic development of Nyagatare district, Matsiko Gonzag, knows that the program of demarcation of lands for these residents has started, that within 1 month it will be finished, with each family getting their land. We took only 10 days to demark the land for the residents living in those 3 villages, even though it wouldn't be 10 days, but it can take a month, as I really assure the residents that they will soon get their land for cultivation. In addition to 72 families which were resettled in Shimngapol village, other 240 families were resettled in Rwabiharamba and Akayanje villages in Karanga sector, and other 70 families are planned to be relocated from Rwimiyaga sector to Rwemasha sector. Adams Kwizera, RTV News.
And this marks the end of our tonight's edition. We had great pleasure enjoying your company tonight. As always, my name stays Sam Kalisa.
And mine, Martina Vera.
And we'll say until next time.
Stay safe.
And a great evening.